name is Waleed El Zomor. I used to be one member of the Egyptian negotiating team since the launch of the African Continental Free Trade Area till the signing of the agreement in March 2018. After the signing, then I shifted to work as independent consultant for trade policies, export promotion. I used to work with UNECA, DIF, and several other international institutions. Beside this, my work, I established my own company. Traveling all over Africa, I saw the potential of medical services and the amount of lost opportunities that we are having within the continent. So I established my own business of medical service company that guide African patients to have treatment inside the continent, not outside. Before that, I used to work as the commercial attaché of Egypt in several embassies around the world. I worked in Brussels, New York, London, and the last one was in Addis Ababa. This is in brief my work.
I'll go ahead and now have a discussion with you, Mr. Waleed. So earlier you mentioned the fact that, before the current work that you're doing right now, you've had experience in trade negotiations, putting together trade policies in Egypt. What do you think will ensure the success of AfCFTA to ensure industrialization of Africa? What do you think is the key thing that we need to do to make sure that that happens? Welcome.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have spent like 4 years doing hard work, negotiating, and try to reach a formula to liberalize trade among the continent. The intent of the meetings was very high, and finally we reach an agreement. We sign. But having said that the real work did not start yet. The start of the work is when we liberalize our trade. So, and talking about trade and how to increase the intra-African trade, it will be meaningful and it will be really develop our economies when we concentrate on finished or semi-finished goods. So we have to talk about industrialization, and we have one advantage in this area, that African trade with the world include 20% only of finished goods. The intra-African trade, the percentage of finished and semi-finished good is 42%. So we are very good in trading among us with value-added products. This will create a good opportunity after the application of the AfCFTA. So now we are talking about the importance of industrialization. My thinking or my point of view is that there are three main priorities that we have to take into consideration to increase our industrialization. The first one is the competitiveness. The second one is the better infrastructure and trade logistics. The second one, integrated value chain on the continental level. The most important one is the competitiveness. We will increase our industrialization and our trade, intra-African trade, when we increase our competitiveness. Just to give you an idea of the current situation, Africa used to trade in blocks. So the West Bloc, which is ECOWAS, used to trade together, and the South Bloc, which is SADC or SACO, used to trade together, and the East Bloc, which is COMESA or EAC, used to trade together. But do we, apart from these regional regional blocks. Do we trade? I mean, apart from these, do we trade together? The intra-African trade that is apart from these, not in blocks, like countries with that is not member in any blocks, trading with other countries with no trade preferences, represent only 12% of the total intra-African trade, which means that trade in Africa is done on preferential base. Then that's where comes the importance of the CFTA. So when we liberalize our trade, it will give us the opportunity for people, countries from the West or from the East to trade together. Well, I mean, with the CFTA, we will not have to trade in regional or geographical blocks only. More precisely, the three biggest economies in the continent will start to trade together, which is Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa. And when I'm saying the three biggest economies, I'm not saying that other economies is not important. It's just that these economies will capable of creating mass, the mass of competitive industrial production, the mass of creating infrastructure and trade logistics, and even the mass to establish shipping lines between our major hubs in the east or north or south. It's not really possible, for example, to ship container from Mombasa to Johannesburg, passing by Dubai or Singapore, which will make it much more, it will take much more time, it will take, of course, much more cost. This is concerning the competitiveness. Concerning the infrastructure, I think this is the most challenging issue for intra-African trade. Just to give you an idea, the financial gap in that need for Africa for infrastructure is $100 billion a year. And I'm not saying that we need $100 billion a year to spend on infrastructure. This is the gap between what we have right now and what it should be. So this is really, I think, the major obstacle to trade in the continent. So what is the solution for this financial gap? I think we should go more to public-private partnership. We should go more into BOT, build, own, transfer, or BOO, build, own, operate. The other thing is that we have to believe in the multiplier effect of infrastructure. I mean, infrastructure will help in trade, will help in investment, will help in tourism. So we have really to take this into consideration. And this will, and when we start spending more on infrastructure, the gain will be more and more. The third one, or the third element, is the integration of value chain in the continent. And I think with the increase of the market access, with the increase of the infrastructure, this by itself will increase the integration in the value chain within the continent. Having said that, one final point that I would like to raise is that in the agreement, we have 3% of exclusion list and 7% of sensitive list that will have longer time to be liberalized. My point of view is that this can be a main obstacle to industrialization, as 3% of exclusion of trade can represent a very big amount of finished or semi-finished goods. So this is in brief what I wanted to say about AfCFTA and industrialization. Actually, one of the the good things about the AfCFTA, it was not limited to trading goods. So, and it's really a very comprehensive package, including trading goods, trading services, competition, investment, e-commerce and digital trade, IPRs, and of course, women and youth in trade. So in Africa, the percentage of services sector to the GDP is around, right now is around 53%. The more the advanced economy, the more we advance, the more the importance of the service goes in the economy. For example, in the advanced economies like in Europe, the services sector represent between 65% and 75%, depend on the country. So this is about the services, and I think one of the most important opportunities that we have in this sector lies in the health and the medical sector, in the medical services. Why is that? For the moment, we have African people spending around $6 billion for treatment outside the continent. I'm not saying that we can eliminate all these 6 billion. Some of the cases it's required to go abroad, but at least we can save 50% of this amount by directing people to get the service within the continent. And the health sector, or this service sector, it has a very different characteristic, and it has a huge advantage. Why is that? The first thing is that by nature, the medical sector is very well regulated, but it's not protected. So government will welcome very much investors in this sector. Will welcome very much international entities coming to the country to operate to the country, because this means like I save money, I save the travel cost for my people to go abroad. So it is really very well regulated by nature, because it deals with health, but it is not really protected as other services. So this is one thing. The other one, government will always welcome professionals, doctors, to come to work, whether permanently or temporary, in the country. This will be a learning experience for our national doctors, our people working in this sector, and still we are going to benefit by saving cost of traveling abroad. The third characteristic of this service is that a small amount of investment can make a big difference. For example, let us say in Kenya, only one hospital is attracting a lot of international patients from Africa, especially from West Africa, but even I know people coming from Nigeria, the far west, to get the treatment in Kenya. And I mean, what I want to say is that it's one major big hospital with a normal investment can make a huge difference with the advancement of the sector in the country. And the fourth one is that specialization is very much applicable in this sector. For example, you find Kenya is very, very famous in organ transplant. You find Egypt is very, very famous for oncology or cardiology. You find South Africa is very, very famous for heart transplant and orthopedic. So specialization here, we can cooperate within the continent and not compete in a way or another. Okay, then when we having this sector developed in this way, this means that we have increasing number of people having the treatment in the continent, and of course decreasing the cost and saving some of the foreign exchange that is very much needed for infrastructure, for even for the health sector by itself. Needless to say that treatment in medical service within the continent, the major medical destination in the continent, is at least 50% less than in Dubai, for example, or 25% less than in India. And of course, we are not going to compare with Europe or the US because we are very much cheaper. So what we need to do in order to benefit more or to enhance our services in this sector, I think within the continent, we have to adopt a unified system of medical visa. So African nationals can apply subject to satisfy all the requirements, whatever the requirements. When they satisfy these requirements, they have to get the medical visa in a very short time. The second one is that we have to focus on establishing center of excellence. Like, as I said, for example, Kenya has one hospital or few hospitals, but they are very, very advanced in medical research. We can do this, we can copy this experience in other small economies, and it will not cost us a lot of money, and it's very, very much doable. The third thing is that we have to get use of our citizens educated and working abroad, our doctors. I'm sure 50% of our patients going to UK for treatment, they are treated whether by Nigerian, Kenyan, Egyptians. I'm not exaggerating. So we have to get use of this fortune abroad by inviting them from time to time to come here. And by doing this, we are saving the cost of sending 100 patients. They will get treated in the same place by the doctor come to visit our country. After we do this, I'm sorry, then we can look forward to export our service, our health and medical services. For example, I'll give you an example. In the UK, the National Health System, the NHS, they have a long waiting list for non-urgent medical operation, like whatever. And they started because of this, because of the high cost of these medical operations, they're starting to send patients to India. And it's very, very much applicable that we can start inviting or having deal with the NHS in UK to sending patients to our medical destination, and also some other medical operations like a dental implant or plastic surgeries is not covered by any medical insurance in Europe, for example. And people tend to go abroad to do it because it's much it's less cheap. This is basically what I want to say about medical tourism in Africa. Actually, I would like to talk about the trade policies that can help convert the informal sector to formal. And the most important thing is that reduce the barriers to the formal sectors. You don't have to require ease everything for formal sector. Give them a grace period of 3 years, 5 years. You don't require anything. Give them some incentives like a social protection or life insurance policy. Like when you come to us, you don't have we don't require you to do anything, and also you will have some benefits. And then the people will experience this, the taste of informal sector, and things will develop from that. This is one thing that I really want to stress. Thank you.
So we'll go in right now, and Mr. Waleed, as you are preparing the question that I asked around the AfCFTA, you could answer that around what is the game changer to improve intra-Africa trade?
Well, you mentioned something about the increased market share for African countries, and I was just looking previously about trade between Nigeria and Egypt, a population of total population of 350 million of population, and a total trade of 200 million between the two countries. So with a simple calculation, that means that every citizen in these two countries consume annually 26% of products of the other country. This is, and if you take out the oil and oil products from the equation, I mean, this value will decrease more and more. So what I wanted to say is that really in our trade and our market share is really very important to increase, very important to do something about it, especially with countries that for the moment does not have any preferential treatment. So what we should do, in my point of view, the first thing is that to enhance, Yavi said about something about digitalization and information and technology, and so we have to get use of this. We have to enhance our access to information in other African markets, whatever concerning production, consumption. This is very, very difficult to have right now, apart from export and import statistics. Information about producers, information about traders. Lately, the Nigerian government launched a formal B2B platform where countries have to register. I mean, they have to be legally checked before they go into this platform. So when we do trade on this platform, at least we know that there is certain amount of credibility exists within this platform. I give you an example. For example, a huge amount of trade done with Europe, with companies, between companies that never met, that never see each other. They spend like 5-10 years without seeing each other, and the trade is going very well. Why is that? Because there is enough amount of credible information. So this is one most important thing that we really have to do. The second one is that for the private sector, they have to go in the continent. They have to go into larger joint ventures by creating the mass that I talked about before, economy of scale for these companies. This will increase their competitiveness and increase their market share in the continent. Thank you very much.